Okay, let's dive right in. We're about to get into the work of a thinker you might not know by name, René Girard, but whose ideas are secretly, and I mean secretly, shaping our world. We're going to unpack the core theory of his life's work, and trust me, it's a theory that promises to completely flip how you see desire, conflict, and even the very foundations of our society. Look, when a guy like Peter Thiel, the founder of PayPal, says a single book is the cornerstone of his entire worldview, you pay attention. That tells you this isn't just some dusty old theory. It's a live blueprint for understanding power, competition, and human nature itself. So what on earth did Girard uncover that's so potent? Well, it all kicks off with a really simple but kind of sneaky question. Why do you actually want the things you want? That specific job, that house, that person's approval? Most of us, we think the answer comes from inside us. Because I just do, or it's always been my dream. We're convinced our desires are ours. They're authentic. But according to Girard, that's the first big illusion we all fall for. And that brings us to his first truly explosive idea. The desires you cherish as your own, they probably aren't. They're borrowed. In fact, they're copied. Girard calls this mimetic desire. It comes from a Greek word that means to imitate. And the theory is honestly stunningly simple. Human desire isn't spontaneous. We don't just wake up one day and randomly want a new car. No. We learn what to want by watching other people. We see someone else desiring something, and their desire acts like a spark that lights up our own. The thing itself doesn't change a bit, but our desire for it does because someone else wants it first. So this means desire is never ever a straight line between you and the thing you want. It's always a triangle. You've got you, the subject, you've got the thing you want, the object, and then, here's the crucial part, you have the model. The other person whose desire you're actually copying. And this is so key. The real drama, the real magnetic energy isn't between you and the object. It's between you and your model. Just think about two kids in a playroom. There's a pile of toys, but one toy is just sitting there, forgotten. The second one kid wanders over and picks it up. All of a sudden, the other kid has to have that exact toy. The toy is the same piece of plastic it was 2 minutes ago. What changed? The desire was copied. And Girard's big insight was seeing that this isn't just kid stuff. This is the engine driving everything from fashion and stock market manias to our deepest career goals. Okay, so this leads us directly to the dark side of all this imitation. What happens when the model you're copying is also your coworker and you both start wanting the same promotion? When that object of desire is scarce, the person you once admired suddenly becomes an obstacle. Imitation starts to look a lot like conflict. And this is what Girard calls mimetic rivalry. The very same person whose desire you copied now becomes your biggest competitor. And why wouldn't they? You both want the exact same thing, and maybe only one of you can have it. So your model, the person you looked up to, morphs into your rival. They're now the main thing standing in your way, and you're the main thing standing in theirs. Now imagine this dynamic spreading through a whole community. Everybody is imitating everybody else, and so everybody is competing with everybody else. The result is pure chaos. Society just dissolves into this vortex of resentment, jealousy, and violence. It becomes what the philosopher Thomas Hobbes famously called a war of all against all. Trust is gone. Order is gone. So hang on. If mimetic desire leads to rivalry, and rivalry leads to total social meltdown, how did human society ever even get off the ground? How did we create any order out of that chaos? Well, Girard's answer here is where it gets both terrifying and completely brilliant. We found a victim. So here it is, the whole hidden chain of events laid bare. It starts with simple mimetic desire. That desire blows up into rivalry, which creates a massive social crisis that threatens to tear the whole group apart. Then, right at the peak of the chaos, something amazing happens. All that free-floating anger and resentment suddenly converges onto a single target. The group unites by ganging up on one person. Through that single act of collective violence, peace is, like a miracle, restored. But the story's not over. The victim is then made sacred. Now, this is not some conscious conspiracy. It's not a group of people in a back room deciding who to blame. It's a spontaneous psychological event. The crowd has no idea what it's really doing. It genuinely believes that the person it has chosen, usually some kind of outsider, someone a little different, is the real cause of all the trouble. So by getting rid of them, they feel like they're purging the evil. But what they're really purging is their own internal violence. And it works. They find unity again. And here is the final mind-bending twist. The victim, the one the community just murdered, gets turned into a god. Why? Well, think about it from the crowd's point of view. This person must have had some kind of supernatural power. After all, they were the source of the terrible crisis, but their death was also the source of the miraculous peace. This dual power, the power to cause chaos and the power to bring order, that's the very definition of a god in early cultures. All the ancient myths and rituals, Girard says, were built to hide the memory of this original murder by making the victim divine. So, if all of human culture is built on this violent, hidden foundation, are we just doomed to repeat it forever? Girard's answer is no. He argues that one particular set of texts in one tradition started a process of unmasking this mechanism, of dragging it into the light for good. Just compare a classic myth, like the story of Oedipus, to the Gospels. Mythology is almost always told from the crowd's point of view. Oedipus is presented as guilty. His punishment does save the city. The myth basically justifies the mob's actions. The Bible, Girard argues, does the exact opposite. For the first time in human history, the story is told from the victim's perspective. It screams that the victim is innocent and that the mob is wrong. It exposes the whole game. This is the moment of revelation. They know not what they do. With just these few words, the entire scapegoat mechanism gets dragged out of our collective unconscious and into the daylight. For the first time, the victim looks at the mob and says, "You have no idea what you're doing." They think they're performing justice, but they're really just a blind mob committing a murder. For Girard, this changes everything. We can no longer scapegoat with a clear conscience because now we've been shown the truth. The victim is innocent, and the crowd is lying to itself. So, what does this ancient theory about myths and victims have to do with our modern digital world? Oh, just about everything. Once you have the Girard lens, once you learn to see this way, you start seeing these patterns everywhere. Seriously, think about it. Market bubbles? That's pure mimetic desire. Everybody wanting to buy a stock just because everybody else wants it. Viral outrage mobs on social media? That is the scapegoat mechanism playing out in real time at the speed of light. Political polarization? It's all about demonizing the other side to unify your own base. Even just consumer culture, chasing the same trends, the same brands set by influencers. The mechanism never went away, it just went digital. And that leaves us with a final and a pretty heavy question. Girard's revelation showed us the ugliness of scapegoating, but in doing so, it kind of broke the magic spell. It took away our ability to truly believe in our victim's guilt, which is the very thing that made the mechanism work to bring peace. So, if we can't hide our collective violence in sacred myths anymore, where does it go? Does it just happen out in the open now? Or does it just find new, more modern, more subtle ways to hide? That's something to think about.